Okay, we're going to go on to the last rule, which is power of a quotient. So now, earlier we were doing the ones with multiplication. Now we're going to be doing the ones with division. So for these, you have, whenever you have, the raising to a quotient to a power, you're going to have to distribute that exponent to the numerator and the denominator. And then you still have to simplify the expression if needed. So let's go ahead and look at the example they provided us here. Now, make sure that your b is never 0. The fact that your b would be equal to 0, that would make it undefined. So b is never allowed to equal 0. A is allowed to equal 0, but your b is not. So for the first one here, notice how they have x to the third power divided by y to the second, and then you have to the fourth power. That means that you're going to have to multiply your 3 times your 4, your 2 times your 4, just like they did here. Now, if you can, you need to simplify. Now, x and y, you can't simplify them because they're not the same base. Now, if you look at the next one, same thing. These are your powers of 1. Let me write them. So these are power of 1, so it's 1 times 5. 1 times 5. That's how we're getting 3 to the 5th and 8 to the 5th. Then at the bottom, b to the 20th power. Again, if you can simplify, you're going to have to simplify that. So let's go ahead and do the first example together. So on this one, I'm going to go ahead and go over number 2. Okay, so for number 2, again, you're going to have to multiply each power times the exponent that you're having it raised to. Okay, so you're going to have a to the second power times 4, b to the third power times 4. Okay, so if you need to write it out, that's fine, if it helps you. But then you would have a to the 8th power and b to the 12th power. Now, the only time you simplify is if you are able to. Otherwise, you would just leave it alone for this one. So this would be your answer. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do number 3 next. So I'm going to be left with 7 to the 6th power times 2. So this is going to be 12. And then you're going to be left with 9 to the first power times 2. So 9 to the second. Now this right here, that's it. You're done. You are not solving this. You're just simplifying. So you can't go any further. You can't do 7 to the 12th power and then 9 to the second power and then try and simplify that fraction. You can't do it. So now you would be done. Let's go ahead and go over the next examples. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to go ahead and do number 6. Now, for number 6, we're having to 8 times k squared. Remember, when that happens, when there's stuff being multiplied, you're going to have to do the power to a power rule. But in this case, we have a power to a product rule because we're also multiplying. So we're left with 8 times 2, I'm sorry, not 8. 8 to the first power times 2, k to the second power times 2. So I'm going to be left with 8 to the second power and k to the fourth power. At the bottom, I'm going to be left with k to the sixth power. Now, if you remember this is quotient rule. Now, the k and the k, they are the same base. That means you can simplify further. You could either use the negative rule, the negative exponent rule, or just your quotient rule. I'm going to go ahead and keep it simple and just do the quotient rule from here. So I'm going to look to see, okay, k and k, they have the same base. Which one is bigger? The 6, which means that I'm going to have to keep it at the bottom. It's going to stay as my denominator. So I'm going to go ahead and do 8 to the second power. And I basically have k to the 6 minus 4. So my final answer would be 8 to the second power divided by k to the second power. And then that would be my final answer. Okay. The reason if I did 4 minus 6, that's going to give me k to the negative 2. But remember, you're not allowed to have that, which means I would have to write k to the negative 2 at the bottom, which would make it positive. Either way will work. Let's go ahead and look at number 7. So for number 7, I'm going to have 10 to the third power, a to the sixth power, and then b to the, ninth power. A to the ninth power, and b to the sixth power. All I'm doing is multiplying. Remember, this is a 1. So 1 times 3, 3 times 3, 2 times 3. And then at the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing for the denominator, a times 3 and 2 times 3 and 3 times 3. So I'm going to be left with a to the sixth power and b to the ninth power. Okay? But if you notice, we have things that can still be simplified because look, A and A, that's the same base. B and B, that's the same base. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going. So my A and my A, I'm going to look, okay, the 9 is bigger than the 6, the exponent. So that has to stay as my numerator. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So it's going to be the 9 minus the 6. Okay, so again, that's based on quotient rule. So 9 minus 6 is 3. And because it was at the top, it stays at the top. So I'm going to do a to the third power. Now, the b's also have the same base over here. Now, the 9 is bigger than the 6, which means that the b has to stay at the bottom, like we learned on the quotient rule. So this would be 9 minus 6 is 3 again. And then this is your final answer when it's simplified. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so for these, I'm going to go ahead and go over number 11. So for number 11, we're going to have, remember this is the power of 1. So 1 times 5. So 6 to the power of 5. K to the power of 20 because 4 times 5. And then j to the 0 power times 5. This is just j to the 0 again. And then k to the 15th power. Now remember, you have to simplify this. Now, first of all, my j here, this is to the 0 power, which means it's just 1. The k to the 20th and k to the 15th, these are the same base, which means I'm going to have to be able to simplify them. And because this is quotient rule, because of the division, I have to subtract them. The 20 is bigger, that means it's going to stay at the top. And I'm going to do 20 minus 15. So your final answer would be 6 to the 5th power and k to the 5th power. And then you're done. Okay. All right, let's do number 12 now. So for number 12, it's the same thing. Okay, so this is product and then power, but it's also quotient. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3 times 4, 2 times 4, and then remember that this is a 1 here, that's a 1 here, so 1 times 4, 1 times 4. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So m to the 12th power, n to the 8th power, 2 to the 4th power, and m to the 4th power. Now, before I move on to this 3 here, I'm going to go ahead and simplify it, okay? Because I can see that these are the same base, which means they're going to subtract. So I'm going to be left with m to the 8th power, n to the 8th power, and 2 to the 4th power, okay? Because of the quotient rule. Now, I still have to do all of this to the power of 3 as well. I'm going to change the color. So now my final answer would be m to the 24th power, n to the 24th power, and 2 to the 12th. I don't think you can see it that well. I'm going to write it up here. So it's going to be m to the 24th, n to the 24th, and then we're going to have 2 to the 12th power, and then you're done. So go ahead and work on the rest of this, and then I will post the next video for the last assignment. For the last assignment, you do not have to copy down or print the task cards that I'm attaching. Just answer the questions. So just answer the questions on the empty tasks that I have. So again, do not copy down, do not write down the task questions. Just answer the question directly, show your work on the blank task cards that I'm going to be attaching to you guys. And that's for the next video. All right. Bye.